What if the most dangerous thing in the world isn't a weapon, or a curse, or even death itself, but a single word whispered in the dark? Welcome to Twisted Tales Theatre. I'm Raven, your ever-faithful, ever-curious host, here to guide you through another fascinating descent into mystery, madness, and maybe a little truth. And if you're new to our little theatre of shadows, I invite you to join our growing circle of story seekers. Press that subscribe button and become part of our community, because every tale we uncover together grows stronger when shared among kindred spirits. So sit back and relax, because tonight we're going to uncover a secret that's been spinning in the shadows for over 4,000 years. A secret that will change everything you thought you knew about a simple children's tale. You know the tale, don't you? A poor girl, an impossible task, and a terrible bargain. In the end, only a name can save her. We think of Rumpelstiltskin as a children's tale, a strange little man who spins straw into gold. But what if I told you this story holds something much older? Older than the Brothers Grimm, older than castles and cathedrals, older even than writing itself. Because hidden beneath the layers of this bedtime story is a secret, one that stretches back over 4,000 years. And once you hear it, you'll never look at this tale the same way again. The earliest whispers of this story come from a time when forests swallowed kingdoms whole, when names were considered magic, and when the line between the mortal world and the realm of spirits was as thin as spider silk. A time when people understood that some bargains once made can never truly be broken. Let's begin with the most well-known version of the tale. But listen closely, because hidden in this strange little story are echoes of something far more ancient. Once there was a poor miller who longed to impress the king, so he told a lie. He claimed that his daughter could spin straw into gold. The king, greedy for wealth, had the girl brought to his castle. He locked her in a room filled with straw and demanded she prove it by morning or die. The girl was terrified. She had no idea how to spin straw into anything, let alone gold. She wept. And then, just before midnight, the door creaked open. A strange little man stepped inside. He offered to help, but only for a price. First her necklace, then her ring. One might think that kings of old had simpler problems than we do, but it seems the powerful have always shared the same curious affliction. They can never quite have enough of what they desire, can they? Each night, the straw was spun into shining gold. Each morning, the king demanded more. On the third night, with nothing left to offer, the little man made a terrible bargain. He would help her one last time in exchange for a firstborn child. Trapped and desperate, she agreed. By morning, the straw had turned to gold once more. The king was so pleased, he took the girl as his queen. A year passed. She gave birth to a beautiful child and forgot all about the bargain, until one night, the little man returned. He had come to collect. The queen was horrified. She offered him wealth, land, anything he desired. But the little man shook his head. He said, "Something living is dearer to me than all the treasures of the world." And yet, perhaps moved by her sorrow, he made her one final offer. If she could guess his name within 3 days, she could keep the child. She tried every name she knew. She sent out messengers across the land to find more. But no matter what she guessed, the answer was always wrong. Until the third day, one of her messengers returned with a curious tale. Deep in the woods, beyond the fox's den, he had seen a fire and a tiny figure dancing around it, singing, "Today I'll bake, tomorrow I'll brew, then I'll fetch the queen's new child too. It's good that no one knows my game, because Rumpelstiltskin is my name." That night, when the little man came again, the queen spoke the name. He froze, his eyes widened. He screamed, "Who told you? Who told you?" Stamping so hard he sank into the earth, and in some versions, he tore himself in two. Now, I find myself wondering, do you recognize the feeling of that moment? That instant when a mystery reveals itself? If this tale has stirred something in you, a sense of recognition, perhaps, or a hunger for more forgotten truths, I'd love to hear about it. Take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes the most profound conversations happen when we dare to speak the secrets we've glimpsed in the shadows. This is the version recorded by the Brothers Grimm in 1812. But contrary to popular belief, the Grimms didn't write fairy tales. They were collectors of folklore stories passed down via word of mouth across generations. And Rumpelstiltskin was just one of many. The Grimms were among the first to write these tales down, preserving them before they vanished. And Jacob Grimm firmly believed that many of them were far older than people realized. Ancient, in fact, handed down from a time before history. And it turns out he may have been right. In 2016, a team of researchers from Durham University and the new University of Lisbon set out to test this theory using evolutionary biology techniques. They treated folktales like living organisms, tracing how certain story patterns evolved and spread over time. By comparing thousands of tales across different cultures and languages, they essentially built a family tree for folklore, and what they found was remarkable. The tale we know as Rumpelstiltskin falls under a story category known as the name of the supernatural helper, and it's now believed to be over 4,000 years old. Now, that doesn't mean this exact version is from the Bronze Age, but what it does mean is that the story structured the impossible task, the magical helper. The secret name occurs again and again throughout cultures and time. Different names, different settings, but always the same skeleton. So why does this pattern echo across so many cultures? And what exactly are we remembering? Let's begin with the act of spinning itself. In folklore, spinning is everywhere. Sleeping Beauty pricks her finger on a spindle. And of course, the miller's daughter spins straw into gold. But to the ancients, spinning wasn't just domestic work. It was cosmic. In Greek mythology, the fates spun the thread of life for every human being. From birth to death, the length of your life, the moment of your final breath, all of it was thought to be spun, measured, and cut by these three sisters. But it wasn't just the Greeks. In Norse mythology, the Norns sat at the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree, spinning the fates of gods and men alike. And in the ancient Vedic tradition, the very fabric of reality was described as a vast golden woven tapestry, golden threads stretching across the cosmos, binding all things together. Thread wasn't just a metaphor for life, it was life. And gold. Gold symbolized more than wealth. It stood for divinity, purity, even immortality. So, spinning straw into gold isn't just a magic trick, it's the reshaping of the mundane into the divine. In later centuries, this idea became known as alchemy, the mystical art of turning base matter into something higher. We tend to associate alchemy with the medieval image of bearded men trying to turn lead into gold in smoky laboratories. But older than that is the idea of alchemy not just as a physical process, but as a spiritual one, a transformation of the soul, of fate, of the very nature of reality itself. So when we look at Rumpelstiltskin through that lens, he's not just spinning thread, he's performing cosmic work. And some believe that's no coincidence, that stories like this are not just metaphors, but echoes of a time when such knowledge was real and feared. It's now believed that the name of the supernatural helper, the story category Rumpelstiltskin belongs to, may date back over 4,000 years to the dawn of the Bronze Age. This was a turning point in human history. For the first time, people learned how to take two ordinary metals, copper and tin, and fuse them into something new, bronze. Imagine being a Bronze Age villager. One day, a stranger arrives, cloaked in suit, eyes gleaming, and in his hands metal, a blade that cuts through stone, a tool that reshapes the world. To you, he's no man, he's a god. The ability to pull metal from stone and reshape it with fire was seen as a supernatural act, and those who held this knowledge, the metal workers, were revered and feared. They were seen as keepers of a secret too powerful to be entirely human. And this is where it gets even stranger, because many ancient cultures didn't claim to discover metalwork at all. They said it was given to them. The Book of Enoch, once considered scripture, tells of the watchers, divine beings who descended from the heavens and taught humanity forbidden arts, including forging metal. Even in the Bible, we find Tubal-Cain, a forger of all instruments of bronze and iron. And across the ancient world, this theme repeats. In Samaria, Cothawakasis built temples for the gods. Among the Hittites, Hasameli worked behind veils of steam and fire. The Norse told of dwarves crafting Thor's hammer deep underground, and the Slavs spoke of Svarog, god of fire and creation. These figures were always the same type: elusive, powerful, never fully human. They lived in mountains, spoke strange tongues, and vanished as mysteriously as they came, just like our spinning little man. But what does Rumpelstiltskin want? Not gold, not a kingdom, but a child. And in every version of this story, he never explains. Only once does he offer a clue. Something living is dearer to me than all the treasures of the world. We're never told why he wants the child, and perhaps That's the point. It's possible the original meaning was far darker than later versions could bear, so the reason was left unsaid, softened over time for little ears. Because in the ancient world, offering the firstborn child to the gods was the ultimate gift, the ultimate price. Of course, to us today, it seems unthinkable. But in the ancient world, sacrifice wasn't always about cruelty. It was about offering up what was most precious in exchange for something divine. In the Bible, God tests Abraham by asking him to sacrifice his son Isaac, and in ancient Carthage and parts of the Levant, archaeologists have uncovered burial sites filled with the bones of infants. Many believe these were offering sacrifices to gods like Moloch or Baal. It seems that when people sought divine help, real, impossible help, the cost was often the same: a child. And that raises a disturbing question. What was Rumpelstiltskin really? A memory of these ancient practices, an echo of beings who once walked among us, demanding the ultimate price for their impossible gifts. But here's the fascinating part. Rumpelstiltskin isn't killed. He's not banished by magic. He's defeated by something else entirely. By speaking his name. This part of the tale may be the most ancient of all the belief that names have power. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs considered divine had not just a birth name, but a secret name to protect their soul. This hidden name had to be carved into tombs, temples, and sacred texts, because without it, the pharaoh would cease to exist in the afterlife, not just forgotten, but erased from eternity itself. In Kabbalistic and Islamic mysticism, the names of God aren't just labels. They are believed to hold the essence of creation, too sacred to speak aloud, too powerful to use lightly. Simply knowing one of these names was said to shape reality, alter fate, or unlock divine truth. And in the Bible, Solomon is portrayed as the wise and wealthy son of David, king of ancient Israel around the 10th century BC. He builds the first temple in Jerusalem using the finest materials of the ancient world, a sacred place said to house the Ark of the Covenant. But in later mystical texts, his story takes a darker, stranger turn. One of these writings, a shadowy text known as the Testament of Solomon, tells us something different. It claims Solomon was given a magical ring, engraved with a divine seal, a ring that grants him the power to summon demons. One by one, he calls them forth, and each time, he asks a single question. What is your name? Because once Solomon knows it, he controls them. He commands them to build the temple, to bring gold, to do his bidding. And that's because in ancient belief, a name wasn't just a label, it was a code, a key, a hidden map of a being's nature, their origin, their power, their weakness. To speak a true name was to unlock something. It was like accessing the source code of the soul, a spiritual blueprint that gave you control over the being. Of course, the names in these stories have changed over time. Rumpelstiltskin itself is a bit of German wordplay. It means little Rattlestilt, a strange name, almost mechanical. Some believe it refers to how he moves, or the clattering sound of his work. But across dozens of cultures and variations, one thing stays the same. The helper's name is always strange, alien, not of this world. And that's more than just a fairy tale quirk. It may be the echo of something we once believed, that gods, spirits, and supernatural beings spoke a different kind of language, a sacred tongue, a divine language. In ancient Indo-European tradition, divine beings don't speak the way we do. They sing, they chant, their words follow rhythms and patterns like riddles that humans can't fully grasp. Which is interesting, because in almost every version of Rumpelstiltskin, the helper's secret name is revealed the same way, through a riddle, a chant, a song around the fire. And this divine speech, it was believed to hold enormous power. Think about the Book of Genesis. How does God create the world? He speaks. God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. No chisels, no fire, no tools, just words. Speech, not action, becomes the tool of creation. And it's not just the Bible. In ancient Egypt, the god Ptah creates the world, not by shaping it, but by speaking it into existence. In these traditions, language isn't just communication. It's a power source, a way to bend reality, a force that shapes the very fabric of existence. So when our queen speaks that strange name Rumpelstiltskin, she isn't just guessing correctly. She's performing an act of ancient magic, speaking the language of creation itself, binding the supernatural to the mortal realm through the power of the true name. Let's return to that moment of revelation. The messenger, deep in the woods, sees a fire and a tiny figure dancing around it. And what does our strange little helper do? He sings. He chants, he reveals his secret in the most ancient way of all, through rhythm and riddle, through patterns that echo the divine speech of creation itself. Today I'll bake, tomorrow I'll brew, then I'll fetch the queen's new child too. It's good that no one knows my game, because Rumpelstiltskin is my name. Even the spirits, it seems, can't resist the simple joy of a good rhyme. There's something almost endearing about it, isn't there? This ancient being, old as bronze and fire, dancing alone in the woods, singing his secret to the stars. But notice the structure of his song. It's not random. It follows the pattern of an incantation, a ritual formula. Today I'll bake, tomorrow I'll brew, the sequence of domestic tasks that mirror the cycles of creation and transformation. Then comes the claiming, I'll fetch the queen's new child. And finally, the revelation, his true name. This isn't just a careless slip of the tongue. This is the ancient pattern of divine revelation, the gods speaking their secrets to the wind, to the fire, to the night itself. Because in the old traditions, truth has a way of revealing itself, whether we're ready to hear it or not. And so we come to the moment of truth. The queen, armed with the secret name, faces the supernatural helper one final time. Is your name Rumpelstiltskin? She asks. He freezes. His eyes widen. He screams, Who told you? Who told you? And then, stamping so hard he sinks into the earth, he vanishes. In some versions, he tears himself in two. In others, he simply disappears, as if speaking his name has broken some ancient spell that bound him to this world. This is the power of the true name in action. Not violence, not magic in the way we think of it, but the oldest magic of all, the power of the word itself. The spoken truth that binds the supernatural to its own nature, that holds even the gods accountable to the laws of creation. And perhaps that's the real lesson of this 4,000-year-old tale. Not that we should fear the supernatural, but that we should understand it. That even the most powerful beings in the universe are bound by laws older than themselves. That names have power. That words shape reality. That sometimes the smallest, most fragile thing, a whisper, a guess, a desperate queen's final hope, can change the course of fate itself. The story tells us that he tore himself in, too, our strange little helper. But I wonder if he simply went back to where he came from. Back to the mountains and the fire in the ancient forges where impossible things are made. Back to the realm where names are sacred and bargains are eternal, and the line between the mortal and the divine is as thin as golden thread. So what was Rumpelstiltskin, really? A trickster, a demon, a forgotten god, or perhaps a memory, a distorted echo of a time when such beings walked among us, when the boundary between the mortal and the divine was as permeable as morning mist. We think of Rumpelstiltskin as a fairy tale for children, but his strange, inhuman name, his power to spin gold, his demand for the firstborn, these aren't just fantasy. They echo real beliefs from the ancient world, of gods who worked in fire, of beings who spoke in riddles, of rituals and secret names that could bind the supernatural. Perhaps this tale isn't fiction at all, but a memory, a distorted echo of a time when such beings walked among us, when the world was younger and the veil between realms was thin, when metalworkers were magicians and names were keys to power itself. And maybe, just maybe, they still do walk among us. I mean, changed, disguised, adapted to our modern world, but still here, still offering impossible bargains, still demanding impossible prices, still bound by the ancient laws that govern all supernatural beings. The only difference is that we've forgotten how to see them. We've forgotten the old languages, the true names, the words that bind. We've forgotten that some stories are more than stories, they're instructions, warnings, maps, to navigate a world far stranger and more wonderful than we remember. And that's why I treasure each of you who joins me in this theater of shadows. If this tale has moved you, if it's opened doorways in your imagination that you didn't know existed, I invite you to share it with others who might be ready to hear. Press that share button and help these ancient stories find their way to kindred spirits, because some truths grow stronger when they're whispered from friend to friend, like secrets passed around a campfire, because some stories never truly end, my dear listeners. They just transform, like straw into gold, like memory into myth, like names whispered in the darkness, spinning through the centuries, waiting for the next soul brave enough to speak them aloud. And so our tale comes to its close, but not its end. Because the best stories, the truest stories, never really end. They just wait, patient as spinning wheels, for the next listener to discover them, for the next voice to speak their secrets, for the next heart to understand their ancient wisdom. I hope, in some small way, that I've helped you see this old tale with new eyes, that you've glimpsed the ancient fire burning beneath the familiar words, that you've heard the echo of 4,000 years of human memory spinning its golden thread through the darkness of time. And perhaps, the next time you hear a spinning wheel turning in the night, or catch a glimpse of firelight dancing in the forest, or hear a strange name whispered on the wind, perhaps you'll remember, perhaps you'll listen, perhaps you'll understand that some secrets are older than kingdoms, and some bargains are more binding than law. For now, though, our time together draws to a close. But if you found yourself entranced by these ancient mysteries, if you hunger for more tales that blur the line between memory and myth, then I invite you to let me know. Give this video a like if it stirred something within you, because each gentle tap of approval helps these forgotten stories find their way to others who are ready to remember. And so the lights fade, but the story never does. I'm Raven, your voice between the veil, your guide through the shadows of what was and what might be. Until next time, keep your ears open for the sound of spinning wheels in the night. Keep your heart ready for impossible bargains. Keep your mind open to the possibility that some names are too powerful to speak aloud, and some stories are too true to be mere fiction. Sweet dreams, my dear listeners, and remember, some bargains echo through eternity, some names bind more than just spirits, and some stories are just waiting for you to discover that they were never stories at all. The theater sleeps, but the stories never rest.